Commissioner Turner,
Present.
I can't hear a thing.
We can hear
Commissioner
you, Commissioner
Perkins?
Estes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Oh, yeah.
Commissioner Perkins?
Here.
Commissioner Estes?
I can't hear you, though.
Okay.
Let me fix this.
Let's see. And then Commissioner Scott.
Present.
All right, back to you, Mr. Todd, and I will see if I can help.
Wait, I'm present.
Yeah, I can't hear you, though. I know I can see everyone, but I can't hear them. So, but I'll fix it.
I think we missed Zelinda.
No, we didn't. We got her.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That was me, Charlotte. I'm present.
No, we got her
Charlotte.
too, Charlotte. We got her too, Charlotte. We got both.
Okay. All right. So let's move to our minutes. I'll give folks a chance to take a look at the minutes, and then we'll go to approval. Has everybody had time to read the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. So I would like a motion to approve the May 22nd, 2025 meeting minutes. I get a second? A motion and a second?
A second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You can second.
A second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, meeting minutes are approved. So we'll jump right to the Education Opportunity Gap Study update from Angela Powell.
Great. Hello, everybody. How are you?
Good afternoon.
Good to see you, Angela.
Good to see you too. Director Prince, I'm wondering if there's anything you want to say by way of introduction before I just jump in.
And Angela, I want to take a beat and go back for a second. Chair Todd, can I have the floor for a moment?
Yes.
I'd like to do a moment of silence for Commissioner Stanton, who tragically lost her life at the grocery outlet accident a couple of weeks ago. So if we can just take a beat and remember Commissioner Stanton, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Oh, Angela, where do I begin? So the Opportunity Gap Study is a refresh of a study that was done back in 2008 that the African American Commission led, and then the other three ethnic commission, well, the two other ethnic commissions and the Governor's Office on Indian Affairs decided that they also wanted to do opportunity gap studies. So about 2.5 years ago, approximately, the Education Opportunity Gap and Advisory, actually longer than that, 3.5 years ago, decided that they wanted to do a refresh on the study. Originally, the study was supposed to happen a year earlier, but the legislature was unhappy with the fact that at the last minute, the Equity Commission was added to lead the study, and they wanted the study to be led by the agencies who led it before, meaning the ethnic commissions and the Governor's Office on Indian Affairs. So we had to wait a year, And then they came back with new legislation and they did the study. And this is where we are now, where we have completed the study, turned it into the legislature, and Angela's here now to talk to you all about it. I will say I've worked with Angela a ton. I'd say probably going back to 2013. We've worked together on a number of meaty issues, from the racial wealth gap to a million and one other things, to the very first study that this commission did with Centerstone and the African American Leadership Fund. So very familiar with Angela's work. Angela and her team does great work, and she's here with you guys to share the study. Angela, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I am thrilled to be here with all of you. Thank you for asking me to be here. It's great to meet you all, those of you who I've not met yet. And yeah, I am really excited to share this work that has been on tap over the last year and a half. And there are, in different points, different folks here have participated in this work, and I want to acknowledge that. Commissioner Estes definitely did some coordination work around a listening session. Chair Todd also did some of that work. And all of you were asked to participate in getting the word out about the study and about the survey work that we were doing, and so really appreciate all of your efforts around that. So my goal here is to share the results of the study and what has been submitted to and presented to the EOGOAC on the Commission's behalf. And I will try to keep my, there's a lot of information in the document. I'm not going to be going through every single little piece, but I hope that you have been able to take a look at it, and if not, have access to the study and can take a deeper look at it. It's definitely been a team effort from a lot of different parts of the community to make this happen. So with that, I'm gonna share my screen for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes or so, and just review the report, what's in it, and then bring it back and have an opportunity for discussion. Okay, can you all see that? Okay, can I get a thumbs up? Awesome, thank you. So we start the report by really framing the opportunity gap as a systemic gap. It is, and I really appreciate this framing from Dr. Lisa Delpit, who said, we need to know at a very deep level that what we need to know at a very deep level is that African American children do not come into this world at a deficit. There is no achievement gap at birth. So one of the things that, because this study is an update of the 2008 report, one significant shift that has happened between this report and the previous one is our shift away from talking about achievement gap to recognizing that the gap really is around opportunity. So this is not about a deficit in kids. This really is a deficit in the system as a whole. And so you'll definitely see that reflected throughout this work. So why this study, why now? So as Director Prince said, this report is an update to the 2008 report on African American students in Washington State. It was commissioned by the EOGOAC. That's a mouthful, and it took me a while to get it. and the commission. This is a collaboration between the EOGOAC and the Commission on African American Affairs, and Imago was brought in to lead and guide the work. We worked in consultation and in collaboration with two other consulting groups, Refraction Consulting and the Majors Leadership Group. Refraction Consulting is associated with Cielo University. We definitely had both Majors Leadership Group is really adept in community-based research, and so is Refraction. And Refraction also does a lot of quantitative, like in the weeds data stuff as well. So we worked alongside them for the first part of the report of the work. And then when we moved into recommendations, I took over as facilitator of the work group, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. One thing that I want to talk for a moment about is that our approach has been both community rooted and data driven. And I want to talk for a second about centering community wisdom and data. So typically this work has, you know, we're pulling all of the data from Washington State, and really getting into all of the numbers and all the trends and all of that. And we definitely did that in this process. And usually what happens is that when we get to reporting or get to the making meaning part, we focus all on the data. And then we use community voice as anecdotal support. We flipped it, and we did that very intentionally. And we used a community engaged research approach. And we did it because we wanted to really and believe that community members are knowledge partners, and are central to not just getting to the what is happening, but also the why and what will help. We want to collaborate with community members in equitable ways that confront, challenge, and dismantle racism and other forms of oppression. We acknowledge Black communities' past experiences with extractive and exploitive research projects. We, as we were trying to, do the community engagement and data gathering portion of this, right, there was a relative amount of resistance around it, just in terms of, how many surveys do I need to answer? Or how many focus groups do I need to be a part of, right? Like, y'all have the information, what are you going to do about it, right? So we wanted to really acknowledge that and bring community voice to the forefront. We also really believe that that strong community engagement allows us to inform policies and processes that undo inequity in education. That said, we did do a lot of data stuff as well. We did on the community side of things, we did a community survey with 200 plus voices. We did educators, school administration, and stakeholder interviews. We had a focus group, a caregiver focus group or listening conversation in Eastern Washington. We worked with this with the state OSPI data. We did a research scan of 40 plus sources, kind of a national search of what folks are learning across the country. So we really pulled all of that together into what you're seeing here. The other thing that I want to say, and I know that the EOGOAC has some questions about this, just this question around how we use data. There was, when we brought the work group together, who I'll talk about in just a little bit, when we brought the work group together and gave them a bunch of community data and some very specific information that came from from OSPI, there were people in the group who said, I want to see all of it. And so we slowed everything down, right? And did that and gave that all to them. What is interesting about that is that the recommendations didn't change as a result of seeing all of that information. And I think it gets back to what we believe, which is ultimately that everybody knows what the issues are. And what we need to be understanding at a deeper level is why they're happening, and what people are experiencing, and therefore what to do about it. So on the community side of things, these are the 8 core things that we heard. And I'm not going to go into great detail about all of these because there's a lot to cover here. But that it was important to have Black educator representation, that they want to see school systems hiring and supporting Black educators and administrators. It was important to folks that that the school district, the schools are offering a culturally responsive curriculum. And they have a good amount to say about that. And you'll see in the recommendations some meaning making that we took from that. They said it was important to confront racism in schools, to be direct about it, to be clear, not to hide behind policies and procedures or euphemisms, but to be direct. To address discipline disparities, to expand educational pathways, and make it easier to explore a range of ways of preparing for a child's future. Listening to students and families, which has a lot to do with engagement. Surrounding students with support, just around recognizing that there are a range of things that students may need, and ensuring that those needs are met so that kids can come to school and be ready to learn is important. And then tackle systemic change. So again, that piece that I was saying earlier about, there's a difference between, we talk about it versus being about it, right? And there was definitely a call to be about it. So I do want to offer a couple of key data points that are important in this conversation. These all match what was explored in the data points that were explored in the 2008 report, and also what is a part of the annual report card process as well. So one thing I want to note is that throughout the report, there are moments when you'll see African American and you'll mostly see Black when we're talking about students and families. The state a few years ago called for disaggregating data so that it could be clearer about trends for African American students versus other Black students. That has just gone into effect in the last 1 to 2 years. So the data in that way is pretty sporadic, right? There's the kindergarten data, there's nice disaggregation. But as you're getting into other grades and other levels, that disaggregation is spotty. So where we could, we disaggregated, and where we couldn't, we just worked with the whole. So this first slide talks about a range of things, a range of indicators. Ready for kindergarten, meeting 8th grade math standards, 9th grade on track to graduate, and graduating on time. And you can see that this is divided between, on the left-hand side of each of these, you've got 2015 to 2020, 2023. And on the left is all the full state, like all students, and then on the right is Black students. What's important to kind of notice here is that rates for 9th grade on track and on time for graduation have risen for Black students since 2015, which is a great indicator, a nice shift, and faster than for all students. And this has reduced the distance between Black students and others on these measure in that particular measure. So that's a success, right? And that's a place where we can start to look at what's happening there, and what do we need to be potentially replicating. Since 2015, rates for 8th grade math standards have declined for Black students, and they also have for all students statewide, though the decline has stabilized since 2020. There still remains a large distance between Black students and other students. So that's still a significant issue. Kindergarten readiness is measured across, I'm going to go to this next slide, which looks at disaggregated data that we were able to pull. So you can see here that kindergarten readiness is measured across a range of indicators. And you can see that in terms of measures for kindergarten readiness, African-American students are scoring on par with other Black students when you're looking at physical, language, and social emotional dimensions, but they're not faring as well in measures of math, literacy, and cognitive readiness. So there is some, as we're thinking about solutions, it's going to be important to be looking at obviously different needs for African-American students versus other Black students. And then the third here has to do with state discipline metrics. And what's important to kind of notice here is, we're starting in 2017, we're going through 2023. And you can see the rates, and before the pandemic, Black students were twice as likely to be expelled and or face other disciplinary measures than other students. We went through the pandemic, and numbers sharply declined for everybody. And then on the other side, we've kind of landed with 1 and almost 2%, almost twice as likely, but the numbers are a little bit better. So we did a bunch of pulling information and making meaning of it. And then it was time to say, all right, what does that mean for recommendations that will be made? And we convened a really amazing group of work group members who are have experience across the educational system spectrum, and we were looking for geographic representation, so across the state. We were looking for folks who are both in, or some folks who in community, some folks in schools, some folks who are in policy. So you can kind of see here the range of experience of folks. We had a couple of school board members, a couple from the east of the mountains, east side of the state. And it was a really, really great group. Really smart folks, really, really thoughtful. We met a total of, we met a total of 5 times, and did a lot of homework in between. So they were very committed and stayed in it with me, which I was really, really grateful for. So what we work to do is build consensus together around the recommendations that are in the report. The recommendation structure follows the 2008 report. And we essentially started with, what does all of this mean? And we had a couple of conversations of just meaning making. And folks, saying, here's what I'm seeing, here's what I'm seeing. I think this is important. And out of that, we began to create a very rough draft of priorities and focus areas. And then we did a collaborative process with them, kind of in a circular, iterative fashion, to develop the recommendations that you'll see in the following slides. So one thing that I think is really important is that to name, before we start talking about each of these 5 in more specificity, is that the work group really spent a long time, or there was strong energy in the work group, I guess I'll say, that we're tired of talking about it. How do we do this differently? Right? The measures haven't changed much. Like we've been in this conversation before. We're in this conversation all the time. How does it actually change? And one thing that folks talked about was the importance of addressing racism head on and really directly. And so these 5 interdependent goals have an underpinning of, in each of these, racism needs to be dealt with, spoken about, addressed. Anti-Blackness needs to be dealt with, spoken about, addressed very directly in each of these. And so there's framing in the report about that. But while we may have 5 core recommendations that have benchmarks and have like a bunch of detail, it feels important to recognize that the work group did not see these as independent. Each one in their minds is interdependent with all of the others. And so the 5 primary recommendations that were made were to increase representation and support for Black educators, ensure equitable access to early learning and kindergarten readiness, improve student engagement and reduce exclusionary discipline, provide an anti-racist curriculum and fair assessments, and expand post-secondary pathways and career readiness for Black students. So for each of these recommendations, there is in the report, you'll see that there is a rationale for why. There's a lot of detail in there. And again, for time, I'm just not going to explore all of that. But there's a rationale, then there are benchmarks, and then there are strategies. And again, the benchmarks and strategies are intended to be interdependent within each recommendation, and all of them are intended to be interdependent with each other. So first one, increase representation and support for Black educators. There's a lot of discussion about representation and retention, including paraprofessionals, teachers, and administrators to better serve and support Black students in schools. There's a lot of interest, there's a lot of important research that says when you have Black teachers and Black administrators in schools, it actually helps all students. And we went back and forth about whether to put that in the report, and ultimately just decided to focus on Black students and really say this is good for them. And it is also good for all students. The benchmarks and strategies that are in the report are aimed to do 3 primary things: increase the recruitment and retention of Black educators and faculty in teaching preparation to create a more diverse and representative teaching workforce. expand Black school leadership to foster a supportive and inclusive environment for Black students, strengthen mentorship and professional development to ensure that Black educators have the resources and support they need for the long term. The second, ensure equitable access to early learning and kindergarten readiness. And so this recommendation has three major parts. The first part is ensuring that there are actual available appropriate pre-K programs across the state. So that's what this first benchmark is. Ensure equitable access to early learning programs so that Black students can enroll in high quality preschool and pre-kindergarten education. And then we get into, and so once they're there, what does it feel like? How do they experience it? We want to foster student and family belonging and engagement by creating supportive and culturally responsive early childhood learning environments and prepare programs for early childhood educators. So both making sure that there's solid representation in these programs and that they know how to provide culturally responsive support for Black preschoolers. And then secure sustainable funding and resources to expand pre-kindergarten programs and invest in a diverse, well-supported early education workforce. So this is about sustainability. Third, improve student engagement and reduce exclusionary discipline. So there was a lot of conversation here. And ultimately, folks were making the connection between engagement and exclusionary discipline. And that they go hand in hand. And there was one point where these were flipped and it said improve or reduce exclusionary discipline and improve student engagement. And a bunch of folks came back and said, no, actually we start with engagement and then we move to like addressing, because there's so much that is connected to exclusionary discipline that has to do with students' needs. And if you don't meet those needs, it's hard for them to be in school. And then when they're not in school, then they experience discipline for it. And there's a lot in here. I could talk about this for hours. I'm not going to, obviously. But the main things that folks talked about here, first of all, ensure accountability and equity in discipline practices by addressing persisting racial disparities and reducing exclusionary discipline. So there's a lot about accountability. Then we got into a whole conversation about what does accountability look like and how does that not stress educators. Strengthen educator training and accountability to promote fair and culturally responsive discipline practices. Improve student attendance and engagement by creating supportive interventions that keep Black students and families connected to school, and expand social, emotional, and mental health support to address systemic inequities and create a more inclusive school environment. Provide an anti-racist curriculum and fair assessments. So a lot of discussion here as well. And this discussion is really addressing two primary things. One, what does an anti-racist curriculum really look like? And recognizing that one does not exist, but that we have biased curriculum. And when the Black experience is explored within that curriculum, it's primarily tied to enslavement. And folks were really insistent that that the Black experience is far greater than enslavement, and a desire for representation of the full experience within curriculum. So again, as before, there are detailed benchmarks and strategies, and overall those benchmarks and strategies are designed to look at a couple of things. Ensure equitable and accurate assessments that accurately reflect Black students' knowledge, strengths, and abilities, free from bias. Foster positive identity development so that Black students see themselves reflected and valued in their educational experiences. Eliminate disparities in academic achievement so that Black students have equitable opportunities for success and state-measured outcomes, and establish an anti-racist educational system where curricula, history, and learning materials affirm and empower Black students. And then finally, the fifth area, expand post-secondary pathways and career readiness for Black students. This was a big one for families, and was also explored extensively as a really strong need and identified by work group members. And so the benchmarks and strategies, again, a lot of detail in the report, but the benchmarks and strategies that are outlined are aimed to expand access to multiple educational pathways by increasing participation in advanced coursework, college prep programs, and career-aligned learning opportunities. Ensure equitable participation in post-secondary readiness programs by removing barriers to dual credit courses, CTE programs, and internships that prepare students for college and careers. And increase mentorship and guidance opportunities by connecting Black students with Black educators, professionals, and community leaders to provide support and career exploration. So people, the work group really spent a good amount of time as these recommendations to really thinking about what does a thriving future for African American and Black students look like in the state. And kind of bottom lining things, a thriving future for Black students in Washington state schools looks like more Black educators leading classrooms, reduced discipline disparities, higher readiness and graduation rates, and students affirmed in their identity and prepared for the careers that they choose. We spent some good time thinking about what's already working. There are bright spots in the community. There are places that folks are doing some really, really great work. And so there is a whole section of the report that is committed to naming those. There are likely others that we missed. And so I would be glad to be hearing about other programs and efforts that you're aware of that you think need to be added to the list. This is a tiny portion of the list, but several that I'll highlight here is Teach 253 in Tacoma. They have they're working on developing a really strong Black educator pipeline. Rainier Prep is doing a lot around culturally responsive classrooms. ACE Academy is specifically working with Black boys and building networks of educators and supporting those educators. And Seattle Public Schools, Black Studies and Liberatory Education. There's a curriculum that folks that is rooted in joy and justice that a lot of people are really appreciating and using. So finally, call to action, right? Like, I think the big take-home message here that felt really important to be communicating is that Black students are brilliant, right? They're creative, they're driven, they're full of possibility, and they're not lacking in talent or will. What's missing is an education system that's fully able to meet them where they are, despite a lot of really great efforts by a lot of really great people. And so we really, a big take home that we want to communicate to the EOG-OAC and to anyone who is reading this report and cares about education and Black families and Black children is that everyone plays a role here. I think that, the work group really, really did focus a lot on interdependence of systems. And recognizing that there's policymakers that are needed to fund and legislate systemic change, schools are needed to, create and implement anti-racist curriculum and discipline reform, and communities have a role to hold systems accountable. So, thank you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I would like to, we've got 5 minutes or so. I'm curious about any reaction that folks have or any questions. And I know we don't have a lot of time, so I'm happy to answer questions outside of this as well.
So any questions from any of the commissioners?
Well, I think Angela, this commission asked us, what did you find? Did you find any differences from the educators on the west side and the east side of the state as far as the African American educators' responses?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think I would say two things about that. One is that in general, everybody's talking about the same thing. The question is level of access. So on east of the mountains, there definitely, are fewer resources, and folks talked about educational experiences in very specific ways that felt specific to their specific community or environment. But at the end of the day, when you kind of go up, there's kind of a recognition that there's not enough, period, and that in all communities across the state, everyone is experiencing very similar needs. It just may look a little different. But the other thing that I will say, and this goes to the bright spots piece, there was some reporting of folks, because there are less resources east of the mountains, some real creativity happening, and some really novel approaches. And there's especially around career readiness. And so there was some in the bright spots section. There are 1 or 2 programs that are specific on the east side, or east of the mountains. That yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is Commissioner Turner. I have a question. So I work for Pacific Northwest University School of Dental Medicine in Yakima, and we just had our inaugural class started, which we have 6 Black dentists, dental students that just started with us. And compared to Washington State University School of Dental Medicine, it took them 100 years or whatever. It took them decades and decades to get 6. And my role is to recruit dental students to our program. And so I'm just wondering, have you done any work with the Central Washington schools, like Central, or definitely not, with our program? Will you be doing anything with those schools in the future? Because I'd like to take part of that and share some of my findings, because we do have Black faculty members, dentists that have joined us, that would, I know they would like to get in on any additional support or questions that you have in the future. Will you be doing anything in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this particular piece of work is complete. It's now going to the EOGOAC, and they are looking at this report in relationship to the other commissions reports, ethnic commissions reports, and then looking for some commonalities, et cetera. But I would love to get any information that you have. Maybe we can follow up with each other outside of this conversation, because part of the reason why we focus on the bright spots piece and kind of getting a little bit more specific there is because we want this to be a continuing conversation versus a report. right? Like if you have places to start, or people who are interested, or people who want to get involved, or places that are already doing the work, and then there's an opportunity to collaborate and build off of what they're already doing, right? That we want to be doing that. So while our work is done, I think the work is just beginning overall. And so I would love to follow up with you and get more information and pass that information along.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for your presentation as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I did have one
So,
question.
mhm.
Would you be able to provide the data, specifically like the number of students you talk to, number of families, number of teachers, etc., so that we could get a good understanding of the breadth of the study?
Sure. So we didn't specifically, there was, we primarily talked to parents and caregivers, uh, and then other folks. We didn't talk as much to students, but we can pull that information. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm. Yeah. So I'm aware that we're at time, so I want to be respectful of that. Is there anything else before we close?
Hey, this is Michael Bailey. Really appreciate the work that you're doing. To close this out and to perhaps not further delay our time, I wanted to make an offer and just invite you to share what else we can do to potentially support you and the efforts that you're undertaking.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think, as this is going to the EOGOAC, there's going to be a lot of conversation there, right? So I think a really strong way that you can continue to support this work is by having conversations with each other about, as a commission, what is important for you out of this work, and what you want to see come from the EOGOAC's further work around this. I think advocacy is going to be really key. And so I would expect that other commissions are thinking in a similar way, right? Like I do think that there are commonalities across the work that has been done in this effort across the commissions. And then there are distinct needs for Black students and African American students. And I would really encourage you to be clear about that and advocate as a commission strongly for those needs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Angela.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great rest of
I'm
your
sorry.
meeting.
I'm sorry. Did I interrupt you, Commissioner Bailey?
Oh, no, I was
Okay.
also saying thank you.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your meeting.
Thanks, Angela.
Bye.
All right. Next, we have the Working Family Tax Credit. This is Sawyer Baragan. I think it's how I pronounce your name. Is that correct? I'm sorry.
You are good. It was pretty Sawyer Berrigan. So thank you all
Berrigan.
so
Okay.
much for having me.
Thanks.
So yeah, with that, let me go ahead and share my screen here real quick. Oops. Good afternoon, commissioners, executive, all folks who are here. Thank you all so much for the time and space to share a little bit more about the Working Families Tax Credit. I know it is September, so not a lot of folks are thinking about taxes this time of year, but really excited to be here and share a little bit more, and also, open up additional resources and opportunities to the community and to you all. So first, my name is Sawyer Berrigan, use he, him pronouns, and I currently serve as our Outreach and Community Partnerships Manager with our Working Families Tax Credit. So as you see here on my screen, tax refund here for Washington workers. Hoping to spend here about 15-20 minutes of your time, just share a little bit more about the program, and then open it up for any questions, a conversation here. So that, I'm gonna go ahead and move us on. So you may be familiar with our program. If you're not, I can give you just a quick high-level overview. So the Working tax credit is a tax credit here in the state of Washington for low to moderate income individuals, couples, and families. This is really open to a large swath of folks here in the state. And this year, the credit provides payments of up to $1,290 to those folks who meet certain eligibility requirements. And we'll talk about those here in a few minutes. It's very similar to that of the federal earned income tax credit, though, if you are familiar with that program. Payments are based on income level and the number of qualifying kiddos. Again, we'll talk about that here in a few slides. If folks haven't applied yet, it's really great because our program actually allows folks to submit applications for pre-years as well. So if people are hearing about this for the first time, it's a great opportunity to go back and apply for 2022 or 2023 as well. And with that, I always like to give just a real what our credit is and what it isn't. So the Working Families Tax Credit here in the state of Washington is a refund of a portion of sales tax that we all pay here in the state. So whenever we're purchasing things or making partnerships or agreements with as businesses, there is sales tax that is paid. So it's a refund of a portion of that. It's money that folks get to keep in their pocket. I think there's often misconceptions that it may be a tax write-off or a tax deduction, but it really is a one-time credit. And this is, as you see there, separate from the federal taxes. So this is an entirely separate process. And then what we're not a loan of line of credit. So this money will never have to be paid back or returned. And then, as I mentioned, it's also not a tax deduction. So this really allows folks to kind of use this money as they may need for their daily needs. So the big question, right? Who qualifies for this program? A couple requirements that we have, and these were passed by the state legislature when we were founded in 2022. So folks are required to have filed that federal income tax return for the year in which they're filing. One thing that makes us unique is that we are open to, of course, Social Security number holders, but also folks who hold that I-10, so the individual taxpayer identification number, as folks are working here in the state. The third requirement there, as I mentioned earlier, our requirements for income are very similar to those of the federal earned income tax credit. So if they're a Social Security number holder, they would have met those requirements or would have been able to if they were filing with an I-10. There is a residency requirement, so folks have to have lived here in the state for about 6 months of the year in which they're claiming. And then lastly, if folks have no qualifying children, they need to be at least 25 years old and then no less than 65, or they can have a qualifying child, and if so, then there's no minimum age requirement. So I know I just threw a lot of requirements there at y'all, but I think these tables really do help kind of explain who might qualify for this program. So you see the different tax tables for the previous tax years. We're currently in tax year 2024. We're about to start tax year 2025 here when 2026 comes. I cannot believe it's already right around the corner. But you can read this table here and see there's kind of 3 different columns. So we have our number of qualifying children. So if you have 0, 1, 2, or 3 or more, you then see those income thresholds that are qualified. These are going to be the maximum that folks can make in order to qualify for our program. So say, for example, I'm a single father with 2 children that are qualifying. My maximum income could be that $55,768 for my earned income. You then can see then the maximum refund there that I'd be eligible for is that $965. So you can kind of use this as a table to see where folks might qualify. Last thing I'll say here, you may notice that the income thresholds and the credits increase every single year. It's because it is tied to the inflation rate, so they do gradually increase year over year. It's really hard to remember all of those eligibility requirements, and so we made it nice and easy. On our homepage, wftc.wa.gov, you'll see a button right here, see if you qualify. It takes folks through a quick survey, about 5-6 questions, that makes it really easy for folks to see if they meet the requirements for any of the tax years. Awesome. So that's pretty much our eligibility here for the program. Then folks might be asking, how do I actually apply? There's multiple ways that folks can do it. So we do have an online application that folks can utilize. It is available in English and Spanish currently, with the hopes to expand that out to more languages. But our field offices, we have 13 across the state. Folks can go in and utilize computers, printers, and we also have staff there to assist customers with the online applications. A lot of people nowadays, especially, are using modernized e-file, or as many of us know it, tax preparers or tax preparation software. So some of the big names, think like TurboTax, Free Tax USA, right? A lot of folks are utilizing that software. So for many of those programs, we are now fully integrated, which is fantastic. So folks will automatically get prompted when they're filing those taxes to file for working families. But we also do work with our free resources as well that are through the community with our VITA sites or AARP to help promote the program. These are free community centers that offer free federal tax support. And then the last way folks can apply is by paper. So if folks would prefer to apply on paper, those are available in 13 languages currently, and we're able to expand that out as requested. And folks can download those directly from our website or stop by any of our field offices to pick up a paper application. My team, we have 6 outreach specialists that live and work across the state of Washington in the communities that they serve, and they go around supporting and putting on application events for our customers. So they can always go to our calendar of events on our website and find out where we'll be. A lot of folks only think about taxes in the spring, but you can actually apply for this program year-round. So it is eligible for folks, if they're hearing about it for the first time, even now in September, to claim their tax credit. We covered most of this here. What folks will need to apply, you see listed there, a majority of it is what we covered in those eligibility requirements. So a copy of that tax return, their Social Security or ITIN number, dates of birth for the folks who are applying, a driver's license or photo ID here for the state, a current mailing address. Always love to call out that we know that sometimes folks don't have best mailing addresses. So we've also worked with a lot of community organizations to do that on customers' behalf. And then there's a couple ways that folks can receive their refund too. So if they choose direct deposit, of course, we'll need that bank account and routing. Typically, we're able to get our applications processed in about 30 to 90 days. So typically a pretty quick turnaround for our customers. And so we really try to pride ourselves on both, working through the applications, but also ensuring that we can get our refunds to our customers in a timely manner. You might be asking, okay, Sawyer, this has been great information about eligibility and then our program, but why should people apply for this credit? So first, of course, this stimulates the local economic activity. These sales taxes were paid here in the state of Washington, and so those dollars are going right back into the communities where they came from, which is really fantastic. So not only, of course, do the customers benefit by having a few extra dollars in their pocket, but businesses, of course, will also benefit from the economic activity there. The second is, of course, to strive to promote racial equity. This is open to folks that live and work here in the state, regardless of their status, right? And this credit does not count as a public charge. So it does not impact folks who are working through immigration status or job types. And our goal, is to really provide those clear guidelines and policies to really be as inclusive as possible. And then lastly, of course, this supports financial stability and well-being. Very rarely are we able to provide direct, flexible cash to meet essential needs, and folks can utilize this for anything they might need. And again, this is an annual refund, so folks can count on these dollars on an annual basis. So there's my email there. It's just sawyerb@dor.wa.gov. And then you also see our regional map there. So as I mentioned earlier, we got 6 outreach specialists that are spread across the state. We got 3 on the central and east side, and then 3 here along the I-5 corridor out to the Pacific. So lots of different ways for us to engage and really encourage folks to reach out to our outreach specialists, invite us out to an event. If there's a place you're like, hey, community could really be utilized here, we would absolutely love to come out and meet y'all. These folks are on the road typically 2 to 3 days a week, so are out in their communities and really meeting our customers where they are. Maps are great, but I love to put faces and names. You can see some examples of our staff out in the field, connecting with community and helping to spread the word about the tax credit. And to kind of start wrapping us up here, just to highlight our outreach efforts, we are in our 3rd year of our program, so still relatively new here in the state of Washington. But even in our 3 years, we've been doing our best to really get out there and get across the state. So we do events, presentations, and speaking engagements, much like this, application drives, and really providing that language support is always critical to us, as I mentioned earlier. We work with key partner stakeholders, state agencies, commissions, much like this one, school districts, community-based organizations, really folks to find where our customers are and support them the best way we can. Then we're also engaged with community in various ways with our community grant program and our advisory committee. And just another plug for our website, wftc.wa.gov. Lots of tools and great resources there that you can check out, ways to promote the Working Families Tax Credit, share a flyer or two to someone you know, or also request us to bring us in to speak at another place or engagement. And this is included in the slides really just as a resource, but as you see there in the bottom right, always love to call out, we got field offices all across the state, central, west side, and east side. There should hopefully be someone near you. And yeah, with that, I really appreciate y'all's time this afternoon and letting me share a little bit more about the credit, and want to open it up for any questions or conversation.
I had a quick question for you, Sawyer. When it comes to the community engagement, um, do you have specific locations that you try to touch throughout the year that we could direct people to? And then the other is, well, I actually think you said it during your actual presentation that you would love to get feedback from us on other places you can go. But I was just wondering about the first question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And I'm going to grab the link here for our event calendar. So, as I mentioned, we got folks who are out across the state basically daily at various events and engagements. So, always encourage folks to meet us out there. And I'll also say, too, I appreciate, Joe, you called to ideas. We are still, as I mentioned, in our 3rd year of our program. And so, always looking for more opportunities and spaces within community to really get in front of folks and share about this credit. So we're always open to more opportunities. And, on the west side here, one of our community grantees was the West African Center of Western Washington. So really cool to get to connect with some community organizations, and they've been fantastic in helping us. So, but always willing to take more suggestions and engagement.
Thank you. Any other questions from other commissioners?
I've got a general question just about outreach, and you mentioned the ability to send reminders as folks are applying for their regular tax or doing their regular tax obligations. I'm curious to know what your relationship is with DSHS and perhaps making this available to low to moderate income families that are currently applying for state benefits or local benefits. Curious to know if you folks have access to that data, but just generally speaking, what does that relationship look like?
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that question. So first want to give a major shout out to a lot of the state agencies. Even though we haven't been around very long, they've been fantastic collaborators and partners with us. So DSHS is one of our closest agency partners. We're actually fully connected now with the Washington Connection system. So as folks are going through that benefits kind of entry, we're popping up as an option for them there. But we continue to really work with them. We do have and have worked with them to look at some of the data pieces. There are some laws and regulations around what we're able to utilize that for as revenue rather than DSHS, right? So there are some limitations there, but in general, our relationship, I think, has been really, really positive. And yeah, we've done some trainings with them and other things like that. So want to give them a shout out there, but always open to, additional ideas. We've worked collaboratively with them. I know they have like their mobile offices as well, right? So my specialists are out there as they're doing SNAP application events, Apple Health application events, right? We're right there alongside them. So any other opportunities would, of course, would love to hear them. But yeah, DSHS has been a great partner for us.
Thank you for the question, Vice Chair Bailey. Any other questions? All right, thank you so much, Sori. This is amazing. This is an amazing presentation, and love the fact that you've given us the events calendar so that we can get this out to constituents. And then also I'll be looking for an email from me, and I'm sure from the rest of the commissioners about other ways you can engage with the community.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much. But yeah, before I head out, I'll drop my here in the chat for you all. Thank you so much. And hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. All right, next we have a reparation study update with Michelle Griffith, who is the program manager for the reparation study out of the Department of Commerce. Michelle has been fantastic in working with the sub team that we've been going through, thinking about the criteria for people who are going to be scoring, as well as thinking about the makeup of the RFP. So, Michelle, you've been an excellent partner as we've moved forward, and I turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Chair Todd. Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to take a second. Is everyone able to see my screen and hear me okay? Okay, great.
Yes.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Griffith, and I serve as the study manager with the Washington State Department of Commerce. It is a profound honor to be part of this historic and reparative effort, and I'm deeply grateful to have this opportunity to collaborate with the Commission on African American Affairs on such a meaningful and necessary work. Today, I'll be providing an overview of the reparations study RFP process and timeline. For those of you who may not be familiar with commerce, the Washington State Department of Commerce's mission is to strengthen communities in Washington. The reparations study was supported by state legislators and policymakers, including Representative Street, Representative Reeves, Senator Hasagawa, and the Legislative Black Caucus. The study will examine the historical injustices of slavery in the U.S. and its enduring impact on direct descendants. Commerce is working in consultation with the Washington State Commission on African American Affairs on this study. While Commerce is responsible for implementation, we have consistently sought and will continue to seek the guidance from CAAA through this process. The purpose of the request for proposal for the reparations study is to ensure that Commerce's competitive contracting opportunities are awarded in a fair, transparent, and consistent manner. Commerce has attorneys in the Contracts and Compliance Division that regularly update the RFP document to comply with legal requirements. The document includes sections such as purpose, background, objectives, minimum qualifications, funding, period of performance, the estimated schedule of procurement activities, the pre-proposal conference, contract terms, and a copy of the Commerce contract. The program manager includes the proviso language and allocated budget from the legislature into the RFP. So the RFP process, it begins after July 1st because that's the beginning of Commerce's fiscal year. And that's when accounting staff start assigning accounting codes for the new funding. Since then, we use those codes to start the process. So we are right on schedule for starting this RFP. Commerce's RFP process ensures equity and transparency. It is designed to award contracts fairly, transparently, and consistently. It improves outcomes for communities. The process is focused on equitable results, especially for historically underserved populations. Commerce has a standardized, regularly updated RFP. It provides clear structure and guidance. It ensures legislative alignment. Staff follow this proviso language. It's the law from the legislature, ensuring legal and policy compliance. It ensures budget transparency. The RFP includes the assigned budget directly from the proviso. And it ensures professional oversight managed by trained program managers and compliance staff to uphold high standards. Any questions at this point? Okay, not seeing any. When Commerce manages a grant, this is what a typical request for proposal process looks like for a competitive process. The process map shows what is required to ensure all the steps are legally complied with before funds can be allocated. It takes approximately 43 days after the application date closes, and then the scoring committee will review the applications using a rubric based on objective criteria pulled right from the proviso. The application that receives the highest average scores will be the apparent successful applicant. After debriefing of those firms who did not score as high, then the contract negotiations begin and the contract can be signed. So here's a clear timeline of the process. The RFP was released on September 3rd and emailed to everyone on the bidders list and the interested parties list. I emailed the RFP to organizations that have completed similar reparations studies, such as the Brattle Group, California Reparations Task Force, Virginia Theological Seminary, Georgetown University, and the Freeman Initiative. Other consultants and academic institutions throughout the United States who have expertise in reparations, historical analysis, and public policy development were also sent the RFP. This includes the University of Connecticut, specifically Dr. Thomas Kramer, the University of Massachusetts Amherst, Dr. Shabazz, University of California, Dr. Araza and David Levine, Northeastern University Black Reparations Project, Dr. Erica Weisinger and Dr. Adams, the Urban Institute and National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America, and COBRA, University of Washington's Director for Anti-Racism, Dr. Wendy Barrington, Anita Rasmustis, Professor of Law and expert in human rights, business ethics, and equity, the University of Washington, Bianca Dang, James Gregory, and Chris Townsell of Civic Rights and Labor History Consortium, and Marcia Tate Arunga, Academic Dean of Everstate State College, Tacoma campus. These individuals have extensive qualifications and experience in reparative justice, including historical analysis, policy development, and community engagement. These names are just some of the individuals and organizations who received the RFP. On October 10th, staff held the pre-proposal conference, which was recorded, and the Zoom recording can be found on the Reparations Study webpage, which I put in the chat. Proposals will be evaluated from October 20th through November 3rd, and Commerce will announce apparent successful contractors from November 5th through November 10th, and the contract can be signed after November 25th. Let's see any hands raised. I will keep going. So here's the proposal submission criteria. The Reparations Study RFP PDF is the authoritative source for all proposal submission criteria, including eligibility, required team qualifications, documentation format, deadlines, and submission instructions. The RFP includes the eligibility requirements, and applicants must be licensed in Washington State and must have contributed to at least 3 peer-reviewed publications or policy reports focused on reparations or economic valuation of descendants of enslaved people. The proviso states required expertise and what the team composition must include. Commerce has a dedicated webpage for the reparations study. The RFP is posted on it. The proviso, meeting minutes, meeting links, and other pertinent information, on this study, which can be accessed from this webpage. It's also posted under Commerce's funding opportunities. So questions that I have for the CAAA is I would love to hear what advice and questions you have, and if there are others that you would like me to send the RFP to. And can you help seek additional funders? That's another question I have. And can I report back to you on progress at future meetings? Those are some of the questions I have for you. Take a second.
Thank you, Michelle. So commissioners, here are the questions that we would like to provide feedback to Michelle with.
So you could just send that to me in the future. And for more information, I put my email in the chat, and here's my email as well. I'd love to get feedback, and let me know if I can be of any assistance. Truly appreciate you having me here today and your time. Thank you very much.
Here.
Michelle, could you possibly go back to the timeline slide?
Certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly.
Executive Prince.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say how great it's been working with Michelle and Carrie at Commerce on this project. I started working with them probably middle of June, and it's been a journey. But you know, the commission and Commerce has been walking hand in hand on this project, and we are looking forward to being able to update the commission regularly. Probably not every meeting, but when we have noteworthy items that we need to share. I may have missed this because I got a phone call. Chair Todd is kind of leading and sharing this effort with the subcommittee. And Chair Todd, can you remind me, or Michelle, can you guys remind me who we have on the subcommittee?
Michelle, can you go through the list of folks on the subcommittee?
Sure. Dr. Jackson, Paula Sardinas, Chair Joseph Todd, Dr. Reverend Linda Smith, Mayor Payne, Dr. Marcus Johnson, and Dr. Leslie D. Braxton.
Awesome. Great group of folks working on this.
May I ask a question? This is Commissioner Turner. Is that Douglas Jackson?
There's Dr. Azimuth S. Jackson.
No,
Okay.
And
yeah.
Dr. Marcus Johnson. So there's
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I was hoping it was a dentist on there.
That is all I wanted to say, Mr. Chair.
Thanks. Well, Linda, it's not like we can't. I'm sorry, Commissioner Turner. It's not like you can't recommend a dentist that you think would be great to be on that subcommittee, but it is not a dentist.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
You're on mute, Mr. Chair.
Sorry about that. Any more questions for Michelle? All right. Thank you so much, Michelle. All right. We are moving to our next item, which is Tobacco Free Kids campaign. And we have Heidi Lowe who will be presenting. Is Heidi on?
I just contacted them. They are working on getting on because we are so ahead of what their scheduled time was. If it's okay with you guys, if you wanted to take a short break, I don't know if I'm allowed to offer that, but she's actually calling
Can
me
we
right
take
now.
a bio break, Mr. Chair?
Yes. Let's take a short break.
Okay.
5 minutes.
Sounds good.
All right.
Recording stopped.
Hi, is everybody back? I'm kind of basing it off of cameras. Oh, there's a person I know, Natalie Hester, the brilliant Natalie Hester.
It's been a long time.
Yes,
How are
yes.
you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
We need to catch up soon.
We do.
Natalie, I can share slides, and Heidi, hello. I can share slides if you would like me to. I'm happy to. I have it pulled up, so just let me know.
That would be great. Thank you so much. Just let me know when we're ready to roll. Be ready for us.
I think we'll go ahead and jump in and get started.
Excellent.
So, tobacco-free kids, Heidi Lowe, and
Recording
like I
in
said,
progress.
the brilliant Natalie Hester. You guys take it away.
Thank you so much, Chair Todd. Really appreciate. Just want to say hello, and we really appreciate you having us, giving us the opportunity to share information about this and to end the sale of flavored tobacco in Washington State. As Chair Todd said, I'm Natalie Hester. I'm one of the consultants for Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. I'm working on building out a broad coalition, and I'm also one of the contract lobbyists on the team. I'm here with Heidi Lowe. She's the Regional Advocacy Director in all expert on all things tobacco policy in Washington State and other states. And like I said, we're really excited to be here. We'd ask that you hang on. We have a ton of information to share, ton of data to share. The presentation is somewhat long, but we're going to move quickly. And I think we'll have time for questions at the end and also be able to share the PowerPoint presentation after this call as well. I'll turn it over to Heidi just to introduce the organization a little bit more as well.
Hi, thank you. Mind hitting the next slide? Or is there a way for me to, okay, perfect. So I am Heidi Lau. Thank you for the intro, Natalie. Thank you for having us. So I work in-house at Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. I cover 5 states, including Washington. I live in Portland, but I grew up in Seattle. So loved working in Washington State.
One second, Heidi. For some reason, the presentation is covered up by a box. Does everybody see that same box?
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure we can.
Okay, hold on. So sorry. I don't know why. Give me just a moment.
Okay.
Let me stop sharing, and then we will try again.
Sorry about that, Heidi. I just want to make sure we can all see your.
Is that better?
No, I think it's worse.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Can you think you can continue, Heidi?
Yeah, because I think that's only going to cover the titles of the slide.
Okay.
Where those are,
Okay.
I think we're probably okay. So for those of you that do not know who Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids is, we are the leading advocacy organization here in the U.S. To promote the reducing of tobacco use and the health impacts. But we also have the Global Health Advocacy Incubator. So that by its name implies it is worldwide, and we work on things besides tobacco. As you can see here in the slide, food and nutrition policy, injury and overdose prevention. And our overarching vision is for a healthier and more equitable future for all. And so with that, I'm going to punt it back to Natalie for a while.
Thanks, Heidi. I guess I'll start with what drew me to this campaign to end flavors is the history of tobacco in the Black community. As you may not know, I've been advocating in the education space and for kids for a long time. I think Chair Todd knows that. But the most popular flavor that the industry used to target particular demographics of customers was menthol. And they are still using the same tactics today to hook kids. And so that's kind of what drew me to work with this organization. And I'm really excited to be here, like I said earlier, to share all of this data and information with you. Over several decades, the tobacco industry has funded and donated millions of dollars to various political groups and nonprofit organizations to promote and normalize the sale of tobacco and protect tobacco policies across the country. Next slide. Tobacco is the #1 preventable death among Black Americans. It claims 50,000 Black lives every single year. It's a major contributor to 3 leading causes of death: heart disease, cancer, and stroke. As you know, Black Americans die from these conditions at far higher rates than other ethnic groups. If menthol cigarettes were no longer available in Washington state, an estimated 7,400 adults would quit smoking. Next slide. It's no surprise, as a result of targeted marketing over years, decades, 88% of Black smokers smoke menthol. From 5% in the 1950s to today, 88%, and compared to 31% white smokers, 73% Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander, 50% Hispanic, 45% Asian, and half of all youth start smoking with menthol cigarettes as their first try. Next slide. Next slide, 2, please. In the 2024 Surgeon General report, it talks about the intentional design and focus of flavored tobacco products that deliver a multi-sensory experience. Some of these devices come with multicolored lights, video games, and they reward users with additional puffs when you win the game. I've had the opportunity to be in some school districts across King County, and it is surprising to parents to see devices such as, that have Pac-Man built into vape cartridges or vape devices and other tobacco products that have games and lights associated with them that are targeted directly, of course, to kids. The link to this report will also be in the presentation that we'll be sharing with you after this call. Next slide. In recent years, cigars have grown in popularity among young people, and now high school students are equally likely to smoke cigars as they are to smoke cigarettes. Things like Swisher Sweets and White Owls are marketed directly toward young people. A primary reason the popularity of cigars among young people are the wide array of flavors. Cigar manufacturers have flooded the market with flavored cigars. There are now over 250 flavors. Things like cherry dynamite and iced donut and strawberry kiwi. These products are sold in shiny, colorful packaging and can be as cheap as 3 cigars for 99 cents. 73% of youth smokers say, let's go to slide number 8, if you don't mind. Let's go back one more. Thank you so much. Let's go one more up to the colored, down there. Thank you. 73% of young cigar smokers said that they smoke cigars because of the flavors. Cigar smoke is also extremely toxic with chemicals, carcinogens, and the same things are found in cigarettes. The FDA has conducted and concluded many surveys and many studies that conclude that cigars pose serious and negative health risks. According to the National Cancer Institute, smoking cigars cause serious health consequences, including several types of oral and throat cancers. Each year, 9,000 Americans die prematurely from the use of cigar smoke. Next slide. And this, I kind of wanted to just show the different marketing tactics and strategies used to increase sales of cigars, using celebrity endorsements, using social media, major sponsorship at music events and festivals that appeal to young people. Next slide. The history of Black media, like Ebony Magazine. Ebony Magazine was 9 times in 1998 between 1998 and 2002. Ebony Magazine was 9.8 times more likely than People Magazine to contain ads about buying tobacco products. These expenditures for magazine and point of sale advertising for tobacco products increased from 13% in 1998 to 76% in 2006. Next slide. This slide also shows the decades. This goes back, to 1966. There is a long history of targeting Black folks in community across the country. And this just examples of how far back this targeting of menthol and other tobacco products goes. Next slide. During the Biden administration, the campaign had full The campaign had full support to ban menthol and flavors. And as you can guess, the work at the federal level is now at a standstill. But we are doubling down and continue the work at the state level. And we have a ton of national support from numerous Black-led organizations, hundreds of public health agencies, social justice, and faith-based organizations, all working towards this critical issue. And now I want to pass it back over to Heidi to give you more of a perspective around Washington State.
Thanks. If you could pop into the next slide, that would be great. Now, you already know where I'm going to go with this question because Natalie started talking about it. But typically, if I were to list like watermelon, bubblegum, cotton candy, grape, would you think I was talking about Jelly Bellies or Jolly Ranchers or some other kind of candy? Probably. But these are all tobacco flavors. And as you can imagine, they are clearly designed to appeal towards youth. Next slide. In the tobacco industry, just like menthol, where they knew where to target, they have known for years. You can see here a quote in 1972 where they are saying it's a well-known fact that teenagers like sweet products, honey might be considered. And then you fast forward a couple decades, back in 94, they're a little bit more subtle in the way they said it, but it was still clear. Cherry skulls for somebody who likes the taste of candy, if you know what I'm saying. And they're right. Next slide, please. Kids prefer flavored tobacco products. You can see the story in the numbers here. Almost 90% of youth e-cigarette users use flavored products. And 70% of current youth e-cigarette users say that they use these cigarettes because they come in flavors I like. And then this next stat is really powerful. The 81% of youth who have ever used a tobacco product, they started by using a flavor. And we can go to the next slide. So I want to walk through a little bit of, these are some of the products. And as I kind of do a high level 101 of what these products are, think about how the behavior and ultimately health outcomes are being impacted by the effectiveness of enforcement or the ineffectiveness of enforcement and industry practices. So if you see all these, half of these are actually illegal products right now. And as you saw, you can also see how much they are targeting to kids, especially these far ones on the right, because the industry knows to target to youth, you do the flavors. You can go to the next slide. So I'm going to focus a little bit on what exactly these flavored tobacco products are. Despite the FDA's ban on flavored cigarettes, there is an overall market that's flavored tobacco products that has grown exponentially. As you can see, there's over 15,000 flavors as of 2017. And Natalie already talked about the menthol and the cigars and focus on those primarily within the Black and what was the other one? Hispanic and Pacific Islander communities. And you can go to the next slide. So these are, I'm going to focus on the e-cigarette flavors for a couple of minutes and the products. So you can see the Juul in the far up right. That is a cartridge that looks a lot like a USB card, and it can actually get plugged into a port and get charged. And it also has no odor and no vape. So they're really easy to hide and use discreetly. So kids like those a lot. The disposable e-cigarettes. So where the FDA banned flavored cigarettes, they did not ban flavored disposable e-cigarettes. So of course, this demographic of products has blossomed and grown. And so you have those, you have refillable devices, which is down on the left. And as you can see to the right, those are refillable with e-liquids. And if you look at those e-liquids, who are they marketing to with those? Let's be real. Next slide. So these are the most popular brands that kids were using in 2024. And the thing with it is that it changes and it evolves really quickly because of what's going on in the FDA. So the FDA was not, and they did with Juul, they made it so that it was only menthol and tobacco flavored. And so you have these other products that come up on the market and become the most popular because they have the flavors. And I will say that as of July 2025, Juul products have now been authorized back in the US. You can go to the next slide. So the disposable, all those top ones, except for the two on the left, all of those were disposable e-cigarettes. And so what they are the most popular, over 55% of youth. This is what they use. They were exempted on the flavors, like I said, and so that is probably the main reason why they have become the most popular. In the 4 years between February of 2020 and the end of 24, the sale of them has increased by 206%. And during that time, they also have gotten a lot more powerful. And we can go to the next slide. So one of those devices has the same power as a nicotine as 20 packs of cigarettes. They've also gone down in price threefold. And the average volume of the liquid in them has gone up sevenfold. You can go to the next slide and talk about the emerging. And Natalie talked about this a little bit, these smart vapes. So they actually have a screen on them where kids can play games, and it incentivizes them. Like the more puffs they do, they get to the next level, and things like that. So again, the industry is always evolving and changing and meeting the demand of their demographic. And so things change with where the youth are going each and every year. Next slide. This, I just wanted to show you, probably never would have guessed that those had e-cigarettes in them. So each of these products, you can see here, it's put in the pack. That's like the little neck wrap. And then down there, it looks like an inhaler. So next slide, please. And this is Washington. So in 2025, we did have legislation that we put forward to end the sale of flavored tobacco. And here's an 11-year-old that came and testified. And she said that kids want the fun flavors. They don't want the icky tobacco flavors. And so if you're not going to ban all vapes, then we should at least ban the flavored vapes, because it would provide for the safety of Washington's children. And next slide. Another one, 17-year-old said students at my school talk about their favorite flavors of e-juice like it's gum, which is just scary and sad. So one of the things that we heard at the State House all of the time, and Natalie can speak to this, is tobacco lobbyists would throw up arguments saying, hey, these flavored tobacco products help people quit. There is harm reduction with them. And so that's a picture down in the corner of our bill sponsor, Representative Reeves. And I love this quote of hers. I don't want to hear the industry talk about how they've provided a harm reduction product for a problem that they created. You can go to the next slide. So I'm going to address that. They are not harmless. Natalie gave you a lot of the statistics earlier on. I think it's pretty obvious that tobacco use is lethal and addictive behavior. Vast majority of smokers started as kids. They didn't make an adult decision to become addicted. 90% of them started either in their teens or earlier. And that's why tobacco companies target them, so that before you really understand the consequences of becoming addicted, you're already hooked. There are lots of, you can see these things here. Again, Natalie's touched on them, so I'll skip all that and go to the next slide. And the other argument is that they can help smokers quit. I will tell you, there is a process by which the FDA approves smoking cessation products, and there are plenty of products on the market that the FDA has approved. There is not a single e-cigarette or flavored product that has received approval from the FDA or been sold actually as a tobacco cessation product. There is a study that came out that or some research that's come out that says some types of e-cigarettes under certain conditions may help some smokers quit. But unfortunately, that research doesn't reflect the real world experience of how most e-cigarette users use the product. Next slide, please. And I'm going to punt it back to Natalie with numbers for Washington. Oh,
I'm having some technical issues.
Do you want me to just do it?
Keep going. Yeah, keep going. Thanks, Heidi.
Next slide. So this is from the CDC, and this is shows, you can see it, menthol use. And that dip, really low dip in 2019 is when the state did, because of EVALI that came out, they did ban use at that point, or sales at that time, but then they opened it back up once EVALI was taken care of. So you can see how much, when you do implement policy, how much of a difference it makes. But you can see menthol is the green, mint is the light blue, all other flavors, and tobacco flavored. So you can see that most of the use is menthol and other flavors. Next slide. So tobacco industry just here in Washington, they spend almost 85 million a year marketing. Next slide. What's actually really encouraging is to see these numbers didn't used to be 2% of high school students that smoke. What we're seeing an increase in is high school students that are using e-cigarettes. And we can skip through all the other numbers, but just want you guys to be able to see that. And then also smoking related causes, or smoking causes monetary effects. So annual healthcare costs directly in Washington by smoking, 7.26 billion. Medicaid cost, $847 million, $829 burden on taxpayers, and productivity losses at 6.1 billion. Next. Do you want to cover this, or do you want me to cover this? Are you saying?
Keep going, keep going.
Okay. So at the state level, because I've talked about the FDA and how the FDA at the national level has done some stuff, but you can see where either they haven't banned things, so then that's where it grows, or they're not doing enforcement, and they're very selective in the enforcement that they do, especially now. And so states can actually act more quickly, more nimbly, be responsive to the local communities, and they can also do enforcement at a much more effective level. It's been shown there's 4 states that have ended the sale of tobacco products, and there's been an incredible decline in youth use and youth initiation. And so we see that it works. And next slide. Thank you. And so in 2025, we did have a comprehensive bill that would have ended the sale of tobacco products. That includes menthol cigarettes, that includes hookah. So it covered everything. There was actually a lot of support for it. What happened, though, was that with all bills that are going to have a fiscal impact, because we tax those products, the fiscal impact statement came back really high, because they said, oh, yeah, well, if we're ending the sale of these products, we're not going to be getting the money. And I'm sure you're all aware of the fiscal situation Washington is in. And so legislators were not willing to go there, but instead the Senate passed a tobacco tax, or a cigarette tax increase of $2 per pack of cigarettes. House didn't do it. And the reason we were 100% behind that, because we know that when we increase the cost of tobacco products, especially at a fairly high level, the youth that are so impacted by their pocketbook, they don't pick it up, or they stop. And so we didn't get that $2 increase, but we did get a significant increase on nicotine pouches that were not being taxed. And so now they are. And with that, you can go next slide. We are moving forward with some kind of price increase, some kind of, we're hoping to be able to bring back the ending of sale of flavored tobacco in 2026. And these are all of the organizations that are in support and working with us. And Natalie, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Heidi. I guess we finished. We ran through the presentation so quickly. Just want to leave space for any questions, ideas, concerns that you would have. This won't be the last opportunity to do that. My contact information is on the screen. If you have any questions, concerns, voice here, or I'd love to be in contact with you all. We're really hoping that you all would consider flavors, ending sale of flavors as one of your legislative priorities in the 2026 legislature. So that's kind of what we're here with. With that would be our ask. Any questions? Again, I want to thank you all for your time. We really appreciate it. Thanks, Ed. I really appreciate you giving us the opportunity to present. Hope you have a great meeting. We'll see you all soon. Bye, Chair Todd. Let's connect.
I will.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.
All right. I'm off mute, making sure, because I haven't been able to push that button for some reason this year during this whole meeting. Yes? Okay. All right. We are at public comment.
All right, Mr. Chair, I'm going to share my screen. Someone wants to give public comment from the attendees, raise your hand. I'll call on you. You have 2 minutes. And to find my If anyone wants to give public comment, raise your hand. If not, we will move on. Mr. Chair, I don't see anyone raising their hand.
Okay. All right. We will move on to adjournment then. Well, one thing I wanted to make sure is I know it was very hard news for me to hear that Commissioner Stanton was killed just doing grocery shopping, and we're gonna miss her. I miss the vibrancy and excitement that she brought to our meetings when she could attend, and I really am gonna miss her. Did anybody else want to say a few words for Commissioner Stanton?
I'll just echo what the chair said, and had a conversation with the chair, and also had a conversation with Ed, and I think all of us agree that the commissioner brought her own lens to the work, which was certainly exciting at times, and I think necessary. I think we don't always agree on what's said, but having the ability to speak to that and ensure that other people can understand or at least hear that different perspective, I think is powerful, but also necessary to the work that we do. So forever thankful for the contributions. And I also recognize it's hard for folks. Loss, it's never easy, especially when it's unexpected. So encouraging folks to also take care of themselves and prioritize their own grieving process.
Thanks, Vice Chair Bailey. Anyone else? Charlotte.
I just want to say that I have realized that our commissioners, we only come together, I guess, in some form or fashion after this tragedy, learning that Sheila was very well respected and very active in her local community kind of helped me to understand that not only is she going to be missed by us, but she is going to be very missed by her local church, her neighbors. She did a lot in her regional area, and the outpouring of sadness and comments is very evident if you look on our Facebook page, and if you look at some of the responses that were left by her community church. So I have had the opportunity to speak with her pastor, who seems to be the community spokesperson, who's putting all this together for her and between her and her family. He did say that Sheila was private, so it wasn't just something that we experienced, her private nature, but I think it kind of preceded, or it kind of indicative of how she acted and moved in her own with the other people that knew her. But I mean, I certainly am going to miss her voice. sometimes it wasn't how she said it, but it was what she said, that really made the difference. And so, yeah, she's really going to be missed by, I think, a lot of people, not just us. I'm done.
Thank you, Charlotte. One note, with me being here in the city, working at the city of Bellevue, she lived in Kirkland, and I can tell you the community here knew exactly who Sheila Stanton was, and she was definitely deep in this community, providing different kinds of services and helping plan out festivals and all kinds of things related to some of the marginalized communities that we have here in the area. So she will definitely be missed. And with that, if there's no other comments, I will move on to adjourn. Um, I'll make a motion to adjourn our meeting today.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here today.